A mother has told of her torture at watching her beautiful daughter waste away as she battled a disease some medical professionals refuse to believe exists. Merryn Crofts, from Norden in Rochdale, died on May 23 last year, 10 days after her 21st birthday. She weighed less than 6 stone and had spent the last 3 years of her life in pain and completely bedbound. She suffered with severe myalgic encephalomyelitis, or ME, a neurological illness which affects up to 17 million people worldwide. But many think the condition is not real, even within the medical profession. Now, Merryn's family have decided to speak about her life and death in a bid to raise awareness of the crippling disease. Merryn's mother Clare said, "Merryn was passionate about raising awareness and understanding of me. She wouldn't want other families to suffer like we have. But she was also ashamed of having me. Quite often, if asked, she would say she had a neuroimmune disease. That's because there is still a stigma around me, even in the medical community, and there is a lot of misinformation about me out there that has to change." The first sign something was wrong came when Merryn, then aged 15, suddenly developed severe swelling around her face, hands and feet. Doctors thought the older Hill High School pupil might have an infection and prescribed antibiotics, but the symptoms worsened. Then, the drama-mad schoolgirl began experiencing severe fatigue, a telltale sign of me. Clare, who quit her job as a counselor to become Merryn's full-time carer, said, "From being very young she was always a bundle of energy. She was a daredevil, always doing stuff. But she would come home from school, crash on the sofa and sleep for 6 hours. It was like watching a wind-up toy run out of power. And it just kept happening more and more." As her symptoms worsened, Merryn underwent several mental health assessments as doctors thought the illness might be psychological, a common misdiagnosis among ME sufferers. Conversion disorder, a mental condition formerly known as hysteria, was even mentioned. However, through her own research Clare began to suspect Merryn might have ME, a possibility she admits scared me to death. But, despite repeatedly raising her concerns with doctors, she was met with a wall of suspicion. "One doctor told us if they could discount everything else, then maybe they would diagnose me," said Clare. Another just said he didn't believe in it and that was that. Her experience was not uncommon. ME has always sparked debate and controversy. It's been disparagingly called yuppie flu, because one of its many symptoms is severe, persistent fatigue after exercise. And, while its cause is unknown, many patients contracted after a viral infection. Merryn had suffered a bout of glandular fever before her symptoms began, and women are 4 times as likely to have ME than men. Frustrated with the lack of progress in the NHS, Merryn went to see a specialist at a private clinic and was diagnosed with severe ME. Then in September 2012, an NHS ME consultant in Wigan also agreed Merryn was suffering with the condition. Clare said, "It was always a battle. ME is recognized by the World Health Organization as a neurological disease, and has been since the 1960s. There are nice guidelines on it, but still doctors were telling us they didn't believe in it. It was like banging your head on a brick wall." By now, Merryn was enduring a string of agonizing symptoms. Wheelchair-bound and unable to climb the stairs at the family home she also shared with older sister Amy, now 24, and stepdad Dave Norton, she developed an excruciating sensitivity to light, noise and touch, suffered crippling stomach cramps and joint pain and began having convulsions. In a heartbreaking blog post from August 2015, Merryn gave an insight into what she was going through. "Having severe ME is like being trapped in your own body every single day," she wrote. Also known as ME, or myalgic encephalomyelitis, CFS can affect anyone, but is most common in women in their mid-20s to mid-40s. The most noticeable symptom is extreme tiredness, but others include problems sleeping, joint or muscle pain, headaches, flu-like symptoms, and a fast or irregular heartbeat. Treatments include cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, specific exercises, or medication to target nausea, pain or issues with sleeping. Source: NHS. There is no rest. You are bedbound all day every day. It snatches the most simple things away from you, like being able to wash yourself, even in bed. Being cared for in every way possible. In terrible pain, from everything. Not being able to talk on the phone or have visitors, and feeling worse about saying no every time someone asks again. Months and months in hospital. Severe infections, breathing problems, low immunity, problems anywhere and everywhere in the body, paralysis, severe hypersensitivity. The list is endless, and if I was physically able to type I would carry on. Spread awareness and remember all of us and all of those who have lost their lives. Watching her daughter go through such torment was also agonizing for Claire. Merryn's pain was always very bad, she said. She was always a really huggy girl, but she couldn't be touched because it was agony for her. We kept thinking it can't get any worse than this, but it always did. We were constantly weighing up how much energy she had in reserve, how much she could cope with. It got to the point where she had nothing in reserve. She was always borrowing from the next day, always deteriorating. Going into hospital was torture for her. Every time she went in she would always come out worse. Me is a constant battle, you never get the chance to recover. There is never any respite, it never ends. As the me began to attack the muscles in her throat, Merryn also began to have problems eating, and her stomach problems meant what little food she could digest was often vomited back up. Her weight began to plummet. She was 5 feet 7 inches tall, but less than 6 st, so tube feeding became her only option. At the same time she was on massive doses of ketamine and morphine to help her cope with her pain, sometimes receiving hourly injections. Then, in spring 2017, Merryn was diagnosed with an infection. It meant she had to stop using her feeding tube. She was given the option of going into hospital to receive a huge dose of antibiotics, of which there was no guarantee of success, followed by a long refeeding process, or staying at home. Claire said. Merryn said she wasn't going back into hospital. She knew what the consequences were. She lasted 3 months. It was absolutely torture. On the night she died, Merryn called her mom into her room. She asked if I could call out the district nurse. Then she said to me, "I've got to be getting off now, Mum," said Claire. I went downstairs to wait for the nurse. When we went back, she was gone. Looking back, it was like she was telling me in such a nice way. It's like her last thought was, how can I make this easy for my mum? Merryn wrote letters to her family to open after her death. They took her a year to complete, as just typing out a few letters at a time left her exhausted. During her darkest days, shopping mad Merryn loved to order clothes online, especially Ted Baker outfits, even though she couldn't wear them, and after opening them would leave them in their original packaging with the labels still attached. After her death, her family held a sale, which they dubbed Merryn's Pop-Up Boutique, which raised £1,200 for the Grenfell Tower appeal. Merryn's brain and spinal column was also donated to the Ramsay Research Fund, a charity investigating the causes of ME. In May, an inquest into Merryn's death is due to be held. Her family hope it will find she died from ME. If that happens, she would become only the second person in the UK to have the illness as their official cause of death, after 32-year-old Sophia Mirza, who died in 2005. It would mean so much to Merryn and so much to the ME community to have ME acknowledged as the cause of her death, said Claire. There is still so much we don't know about the disease. We have to start properly funding research into it and acknowledging it can kill. The ME Association campaigns to improve access to care, treatment and research and remove the disease's stigma. ME Association Honorary Medical Advisor Charles Shepard said it was essential Merryn's untimely death is not overlooked. He added, "There are many people, even within the medical profession, who continue to think ME is all in the mind. It's about time we put this myth to bed once and for all. It is essential that Merryn's untimely death is not overlooked, and the urgent need for proper recognition of, and research into, ME is recognized. Many doctors still don't know how to diagnose and manage ME, and lack of research means that we still don't have any effective forms of treatment. In our present state of knowledge, we don't know if ME can kill directly, but there are various consequences of having the illness that can increase the risk of early death. How many more people have to suffer before ME merits properly funded biomedical research? For more information on ME, visit meassociation.org.uk. At the heart of the issue is what causes ME. Patient activists and some doctors consider it a physical disorder. This biological theory appeared to be reinforced by recent research from Stanford University in the US that identified a new set of messenger molecules in the blood that are part of the immune system and behave differently in ME/CFS patients. New, sophisticated equipment allowed a team to run a very detailed analysis of the blood of 192 patients. Comparing it with nearly 400 healthy people, they found that immune system messenger molecules, cytokines, that trigger inflammation and produce flu-like symptoms were higher in patients with the most severe symptoms. An independent expert, Gordon Broderick, a systems biologist at Rochester General Hospital in New York, commented that it was a tremendous step forward.
Where the freaks at?